The blood-red sun dipped below the distant mesas as Gabriel Quinn stared at the daguerreotype in his weathered hands, the small metal frame worn smooth from years of desperate clutching. The image of Catherine's face, frozen in time 3 years ago, was all he had left of her, that, and the crushing weight of regret that accompanied his every waking moment. Wyoming Territory, 1876. The land was as unforgiving as Gabriel's memories. He sat alone on the porch of his modest ranch house, miles from the nearest neighbor, with nothing but the howling wind and his wife's picture for company. His callous thumb traced the outline of her face, the way it had 1,000 times before, remembering how her eyes used to crinkle at the corners when she laughed, how her voice could calm even the wildest bronco or the wildest heart. "I should have been there," he whispered to the photograph, his voice cracking with emotion. "I should have been there, Kate." The promise he'd made to find her had gone unfulfilled for too long. Everyone in Clearwater told him she was gone, lost in the attack on the stagecoach 3 years prior. Her body never recovered. The territorial marshals had given up the search months ago. Even Gabriel's closest friend, Marshal Hector Daniels, had gently suggested it was time to accept what had happened and move on. But something in Gabriel's heart wouldn't let him believe Catherine was dead. Call it stubbornness, call it denial, call it the desperate hope of a broken man, but something kept that flame of possibility alive in his chest. A gust of wind suddenly tore across the porch, nearly ripping the precious photograph from his grasp. Gabriel clutched it tighter, his heart racing at the near loss. As the wind died down, he looked again at Catherine's face. For a moment, just the briefest of moments, he could have sworn her expression shifted, the frozen smile becoming warmer, more present. Gabriel blinked hard, certain his lonely mind was playing tricks on him. But when he looked again, there was no denying what he saw. Catherine's face in the photograph had changed, her smile wider, her eyes seeming to look directly into his. Gabriel dropped the frame as if it had burned him, watching with wide eyes as it clattered to the wooden porch. When he finally summoned the courage to pick it up again, the picture was just as it had always been. Catherine posed formally in her Sunday best, her expression serious as was customary for photographs of the time. He ran a trembling hand over his face, feeling the rough stubble against his palm. "I'm losing my mind," he muttered, rising from his chair. The long days of ranching and the longer nights of grieving were finally taking their toll. But as he turned to go inside, a voice carried on the wind so faint he almost missed it. "Gabriel." He froze, one hand on the doorframe. That voice, it couldn't be. He'd dreamed of hearing it so many times that now his mind must be conjuring it from thin air. "Gabriel Quinn, don't you dare give up on me." This time, he whirled around, eyes scanning the darkening prairie spread before his homestead. Nothing but tall grass swaying in the twilight breeze. No riders approaching. No figure standing at the edge of his property. His gaze dropped once more to the photograph in his hand. Catherine's eyes seemed to flash with an inner light that shouldn't have been possible in a 3-year-old daguerreotype. Gabriel's heart pounded against his ribs as he made a decision that would change the course of his life. In that moment, watching his wife's picture seemingly come to life, he knew with bone-deep certainty that Catherine Quinn was alive, and she was trying to reach him. Before the sun rose the next morning, Gabriel had packed provisions, saddled his most reliable horse, a dun-colored gelding named Rusty, and strapped his Winchester rifle to the saddle. The photograph of Catherine was securely tucked in the inside pocket of his coat, close to his heart where it had remained for 3 years. As the first pale light of dawn crept over the eastern horizon, Gabriel took one last look at the small ranch he'd built with his own hands, the ranch that was supposed to be their home together. "I'll find you, Kate," he promised to the wind. "No matter how far I have to go." The ride into Clearwater took most of the morning. The town had grown since Gabriel had last visited, nearly 2 months ago. The railroad had finally connected to the main line, bringing with it new settlers, new businesses, and new opportunities. But Gabriel had little interest in progress or prosperity without Catherine by his side. He tethered Rusty outside the marshal's office and pushed through the door, the familiar smell of coffee, gun oil, and paper greeting him. Marshal Hector Daniels looked up from his desk, surprise registering on his face before settling into a concerned frown. "Gabe," he said, rising from his chair. "Didn't expect to see you in town so soon." "I need information, Hector," Gabriel said, not bothering with pleasantries. "About the Rockton stage line attack. The one Kate was on." Hector's expression softened. "Gabe, we've been through this. There were no survivors from that attack. The Blackwell gang left no one alive." "Did you ever find her body?" Gabriel pressed, leaning his palms flat on the marshal's desk. "No, but that doesn't mean... It means she could be alive," Gabriel interrupted, pulling Catherine's photograph from his pocket. "Look at this." Hector took the photograph with a sigh that suggested he was humoring a grieving friend. "It's a fine likeness of Catherine, just as I remember. Keep looking," Gabriel instructed, his voice tight with barely contained excitement. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Hector's eyes widened slightly. He blinked, brought the photograph closer to his face, then looked up at Gabriel with confusion. Did you have this retouched?"
No.
Gabriel's heart was racing now. "You saw it too, didn't you?" Her expression changed. Hector carefully set the photograph down on his desk. "Gabe, I think maybe you should talk to Doc Winters. Grief can do strange things to a man's mind, make him see things. I'm not crazy, Hector," Gabriel said, snatching the photograph back. "Something's happening. I think Catherine's trying to tell me she's alive. Even if, by some miracle, she survived the attack," Hector said carefully. "It's been 3 years. Why would she not have come back? Or sent word?" Gabriel had asked himself the same question 100 times during the sleepless night. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe she was injured, or being held somewhere. By who? The Blackwell gang is gone. Josiah Blackwell was killed in that shootout in Colorado last year. "I don't know," Gabriel admitted. "But I aim to find out. I'm going back to where it happened to follow the trail from the beginning." Hector ran a hand through his graying hair. "That's nearly 200 miles south, Gabe. And the trail's colder than a mountain stream in January. I don't care. I have to try." Gabriel tucked the photograph back into his pocket. "I just came to see if there was anything at all from the investigation that might help me." Hector studied his friend's face, then sighed in resignation. "There was one thing that never did make sense. One of my deputies found a woman's handkerchief about a mile from the attack site. It had Catherine's initials on it, but it was too clean to have been there for days exposed to the elements while we were searching for survivors." Gabriel felt his pulse quicken. "You think someone moved it there later?" "I thought it might have been dropped by one of the searchers. Or maybe blown there by the wind."
But
Hector hesitated. "The deputy who found it swore he'd checked that exact spot days earlier." "Where is it now?" "I kept it," Hector admitted, moving to a small safe behind his desk. He dialed the combination and retrieved a small cloth package. "Couldn't bring myself to give it to you at the time. Didn't want to give you false hope." Gabriel carefully unwrapped the delicate white handkerchief. The embroidered CPQ in the corner was unmistakably Catherine's work. He'd watched her countless evenings by lamplight, her needle flashing as she added her new married initial to her handkerchiefs and linens. He brought it to his nose, hoping against hope for some trace of her lavender perfume, but there was nothing. Still, holding something she had touched made her feel closer somehow. "There's something else," Hector said, his tone hesitant. "A drifter came through town about 6 months ago. He'd been working at ranches all through the territory. Said he'd seen a woman matching Catherine's description working at a place called Whispering Pines." Gabriel's head snapped up. "And you're just telling me this now?" "The man had been drinking heavily, Gabe. And Whispering Pines is just a legend, a ghost town that's supposed to be hidden somewhere in the mountains. No one's ever found it. I figured he was making up stories for free drinks. Where did this drifter go? Moved on after a few days. Headed west, I think. Gabriel carefully rewrapped the handkerchief and tucked it away with the photograph. I'll need supplies. Enough for at least 3 weeks in the backcountry. Hector sighed. You're really doing this? I have to, Hector. Whether you believe me or not, I know she's alive. And she's trying to tell me where to find her. After a moment, Hector nodded. Emerson's store has everything you'll need. I'll tell him to put it on my account. I can pay my own way. Consider it my contribution to proving me wrong, Hector said with a sad smile. Just be careful, Gabe. The territory's a dangerous place for a man alone. Gabriel nodded, extending his hand to his old friend. Thank you. Hector clasped his hand firmly. If anyone could find her, it's you. And Gabe? If there's even the slimmest chance she's out there, bring her home. By mid-afternoon, Gabriel had acquired everything he needed from Emerson's general store: dried beans, coffee, salt pork, ammunition for his Winchester, and an assortment of other necessities. He'd also stopped at the local saloon, not for whiskey, but for information. The Red Slipper Saloon was relatively quiet at this hour. Only a few dedicated drinkers hunched over their glasses at the bar. The piano player idly picked out a tune in the corner, and 2 men played a lazy game of cards near the window. Gabriel approached the bartender, a heavy-set man named Thomas whom he'd known for years. Thomas, I'm looking for information about a drifter who came through town a while back. Talked about a place called Whispering Pines. Thomas paused in wiping down a glass. That'd be One-Eyed Jack. Spun all kinds of wild tales. You think he was lying? Thomas shrugged. Hard to say. Jack's seen a lot in his time. Fought in the war, wandered all over since then. Some things he says are true enough, others. He made a wavering gesture with his hand. Any idea where I might find him now? Last I heard, he was working at the Peterson place, just outside of Rimrock. That's about 5 days' ride southwest of here. Gabriel nodded his thanks, sliding a coin across the bar. One more thing, ever heard anything concrete about Whispering Pines? Not just rumors, but someone who claims to have actually been there. Thomas thought for a moment, then leaned forward. There's a half-Shoshone woman lives at the edge of town, Clara Wind. Keeps to herself mostly, but she knows the mountains better than anyone. If Whispering Pines exists, she might know something about it. It was well past sunset by the time Gabriel made his way to Clara Wind's small cabin at the outskirts of Clearwater. Most townsfolk gave the woman a wide berth, uncomfortable with her mixed heritage and her reputation for knowing things she shouldn't. But Gabriel had never been one to judge a person by anything other than their actions. A thin spiral of smoke rose from the cabin's chimney, and a single lantern glowed in the window. Gabriel dismounted and approached the door, knocking firmly. For a long moment, there was silence. Then the door creaked open, revealing a slender woman with long dark hair streaked with gray. Though she must have been in her 50s, Clara Wind's face was remarkably unlined, her dark eyes sharp and assessing as they took in her visitor. Gabriel Quinn, she said, her voice soft but clear. I have been expecting you. Gabriel couldn't hide his surprise. You have? The spirits are restless around you, she said simply, stepping back to allow him entry.
Come in.
The night grows cold. The interior of the cabin was neat and sparsely furnished, with bundles of dried herbs hanging from the rafters and a collection of smooth stones arranged on a small table. A pot bubbled over the fire, filling the room with the rich aroma of stew. Sit, Clara instructed, gesturing to one of 2 chairs by the fire. You have questions about the Hidden Valley. Gabriel sat, wondering how much this mysterious woman truly knew. I'm looking for my wife, Catherine. I believe she might be at a place called Whispering Pines. Clara nodded, stirring the pot over the fire. The Hidden Valley. Few have found it. Fewer have returned. But it's real? Not just a legend. It is real. Clara ladled some stew into a bowl and handed it to Gabriel.
Eat.
Your journey will be long. Gabriel accepted the food, though his appetite had vanished with the confirmation that Whispering Pines existed. Do you know where it is? Can you tell me how to find it? Clara seated herself in the chair opposite him. The valley lies beyond 3 peaks that look like sleeping bears. It is protected by the old magic of the mountains. Those who search for it seldom find it. It finds those who need it. I need to find my wife, Gabriel said, frustration edging his voice. I can't just wander the mountains hoping the valley finds me. Clara's eyes softened. Show me what brought you here tonight, Gabriel Quinn. Show me what woke you from your grief. Gabriel hesitated, then carefully withdrew the photograph from his pocket. He held it out to Clara, who took it with reverent hands. She studied the image for a long moment, her expression unchanging. Then, as Gabriel watched, her eyes widened slightly. Ah, she breathed. She reaches across the veil. You can see it too? Gabriel leaned forward eagerly. Her expression changing? Clara nodded slowly. Your wife's spirit is strong. The bond between you transcends distance. She returned the photograph to him. She calls to you from the hidden valley. But the path is dangerous, and not just because of the wilderness. What do you mean? Whispering Pines has a guardian. A man who believes the valley belongs to him alone. He collects those who interest him, keeps them from leaving. A chill ran down Gabriel's spine. Are you saying my wife is being held prisoner? Perhaps not in chains, Clara said carefully. The guardian has ways of ensuring people stay. Some forget they ever had another life. Others are too afraid to leave. Gabriel's hand instinctively moved to the gun at his hip. Who is this guardian? His name is not spoken, Clara said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. He came to the valley many years ago, bringing darkness with him. The Shoshone avoid the place now, though it was once sacred to them. How do I find it? Please, I need more than riddles. Clara studied him for a moment, then rose and moved to a small chest in the corner of the room. She returned with a folded piece of leather, which she carefully opened to reveal a crude map drawn in what looked like charcoal. The journey begins at Broken Will Creek, she said, pointing to a marking on the map. Follow it into the mountains until you reach the place where 3 canyons meet. Take the middle path. After 2 days' ride, you will see the 3 sleeping bears. The valley lies beyond them, hidden in mist. Gabriel studied the map, committing it to memory. And this guardian, how do I deal with him? That depends on what you find, Clara said enigmatically. Not all is as it seems in the hidden valley. Trust your heart, Gabriel Quinn. It has already guided you this far. She folded the leather map and pressed it into his hands. Take this. May it lead you to what you seek. Thank you, Gabriel said, rising to leave. I don't know how to repay your kindness. Clara's eyes seemed to look through him rather than at him. When you find the valley, burn sage at its entrance. It will honor the spirits who guide your way and clear your path of deception. Gabriel nodded, tucking the map securely away with Catherine's photograph. I'll leave at first light. One more thing, Clara called as he reached the door. The photograph, keep it close to your heart. As her image changes, you will know you are drawing nearer. The next morning dawned clear and cool, a perfect day for beginning a journey. Gabriel set out from Clearwater with Rusty well-rested and laden with supplies, and a second horse, a sturdy bay mare he'd purchased from the livery to serve as a pack horse and backup mount. He rode southwest, following the directions Clara had given him. Broken Will Creek was a half-day's ride from town, a small but consistent stream that wound its way into the foothills of the distant mountains. As he rode, Gabriel frequently checked the photograph of Catherine, watching for any changes in her expression. For the first 2 days, the journey was uneventful. Gabriel followed the creek as it carved its way deeper into increasingly rugged terrain. Game was plentiful, allowing him to conserve his supplies and eat fresh meat each night. On the evening of the second day, as he made camp beside the creek, he pulled out Catherine's photograph and gasped. Her smile had definitely changed, becoming wider and more urgent. Her eyes seemed to be looking not directly at him, but slightly to his right, as if indicating a direction. Gabriel turned, scanning the landscape in the direction Catherine seemed to be looking. In the fading light, he could just make out a narrow deer trail leading away from the creek, up a steep embankment, and into a stand of pines. Though darkness was falling, Gabriel felt a sudden urgency. He quickly packed up his half-made camp, saddled Rusty again, and led both horses carefully up the deer trail. The path was difficult to follow in the gathering dusk, but Gabriel pressed on, using what little moonlight filtered through the pines to guide his way. After about an hour of slow progress, the trail opened into a small clearing where Gabriel decided to make camp for the night. As he unsaddled the horses, a twig snapped somewhere in the darkness beyond the clearing. Gabriel froze, his hand moving to his holster. "Who's there?" he called, drawing his revolver. "Show yourself." For a long moment, there was silence. Then a woman's voice called back. "Are you alone, stranger?" Gabriel's heart leaped, but the voice wasn't Catherine's. "I am," he answered cautiously. "Just passing through." A figure emerged from the trees, a woman in her 30s, dressed in practical frontier clothing, a rifle held loosely in her hands. Her hair was tied back in a practical braid, and her face was weathered from life outdoors. "Name's Charlotte Reed," she said, keeping a cautious distance. "Don't usually see travelers on this trail." "Where are you headed?" Gabriel considered how much to reveal. "Looking for someone. A settlement called Whispering Pines." Charlotte's expression changed instantly, her grip on the rifle tightening. "Turn back, mister. That's no place for decent folk. You know it? You've been there." Gabriel took a step toward her, but stopped when she raised the rifle slightly. "Know enough to stay away," she said grimly. "And you should too." "I can't. My wife might be there." Something in his voice must have reached her, because Charlotte lowered the rifle slightly. "Your wife. She disappeared 3 years ago. Stage robbery. But I have reason to believe she survived and ended up at Whispering Pines." Charlotte studied him for a long moment. "What's your name?" "Gabriel Quinn. My wife is Catherine." A flash of recognition crossed Charlotte's face. Catherine Quinn? Auburn hair, green eyes, small scar on her right hand. Gabriel's heart nearly stopped. "You know her?" Charlotte nodded slowly. "She was at Whispering Pines. At least, she was when I escaped 6 months ago." "Escaped?" Gabriel moved closer, desperate for information. "Please tell me everything you know." Charlotte hesitated, then sighed. "Make your fire." "It's a long story, and the night is cold." Once the campfire was burning strongly, Charlotte settled on the opposite side from Gabriel, the rifle still within easy reach. "I was taken to Whispering Pines 2 years ago," she began. "Stagecoach I was on was attacked. I was the only survivor, or so I thought. They took me to the valley, told me I was chosen to be part of their community." "Who are they?" Gabriel asked. "The people of Whispering Pines, led by a man who calls himself the Shepherd. Real name's Elias Devlin. He was some kind of preacher back east, before he came west and started gathering followers." Gabriel leaned forward. "And Catherine? How did she seem? Was she hurt?" "Not hurt, no," Charlotte said carefully. "But not herself either. None of us were. Devlin. He has ways of changing people. There's something in the water there, some herb or drug. Makes you compliant, forgetful. Some days I could barely remember my own name, let alone my life before the valley." A cold dread settled in Gabriel's stomach. "You're saying he drugged you? All of you?" Charlotte nodded grimly. "Tea every morning and night. Said it was for our spiritual awakening. Took me months to realize what was happening, to start pretending to drink it while actually spilling it when no one was looking. That's when my head started to clear. And Catherine? Was she one of his followers? Not exactly. Catherine was different. Devlin kept her close, called her his special one. She worked in his house, not in the fields or workshops like the rest of us. I didn't get to speak with her often, but when I did. Charlotte hesitated. What? Gabriel pressed. She didn't remember much about her past. Said she'd been in an accident, that Devlin had saved her life. But sometimes, when no one else was around, she'd ask me questions about the outside world, about Wyoming territory. Like some part of her knew there was more to her story. Hope flared in Gabriel's chest. She didn't completely forget. No, Charlotte agreed. Something in her was fighting the fog, same as me. That's why I'm telling you this, instead of just warning you away. If anyone could break free of Devlin's control, it's your wife. How did you escape? Waited for the spring festival. Everyone was distracted with preparations. I'd been saving food for weeks, hiding it in the forest during my work assignments. When the night came, I just walked away. Kept walking for 3 days before I found a trapper's cabin. And you didn't try to help the others? Help Catherine? Charlotte's expression hardened. I barely got myself out. Devlin has men enforcers who patrol the valley. Anyone caught trying to leave is punished severely. I couldn't risk trying to convince others to come with me when they were still under his influence. Gabriel nodded, understanding her decision even as he fought against the image of Catherine trapped in this nightmare. How many people are there? About 50 when I left. Mostly women, some children born in the valley, a handful of men who serve as Devlin's enforcers. And weapons. Rifles for hunting and protection from wildlife. Devlin's personal guards carry revolvers. Gabriel absorbed this information, already forming the beginnings of a plan. Can you draw me a map of the valley? The layout of the buildings, where Catherine might be. Charlotte hesitated. You can't just ride in there, guns blazing. Devlin has too many loyal followers. And even if you somehow got to Catherine, she might not remember you, might not want to leave. I have to try, Gabriel said simply. I've spent 3 years believing she was dead. Now that I know she's alive, nothing will stop me from bringing her home. After a moment, Charlotte nodded. I'll help you, but you need to understand what you're up against. Devlin isn't just some outlaw or snake oil salesman. There's something wrong with him. The way he can make people believe whatever he tells them, even without the tea. I understand. Charlotte used a stick to draw in the dirt near the fire. The valley is here, surrounded by steep cliffs on 3 sides. Only one way in, or out a narrow pass that's always guarded. The settlement itself is built around a central square, with Devlin's house here, at the northern end. It's the largest building, 2 stories. Catherine would likely be there. She continued mapping out the community, the dormitories where most followers lived, the fields, the workshops, the small church Devlin had built. Guards patrol day and night, but they're most vigilant at the pass. If you could somehow enter from above, over the cliffs. I'll find a way, Gabriel promised. What about Devlin himself? What kind of man is he? Charlotte's expression darkened. Charming when he wants to be. Cruel when crossed. He truly believes he's building some kind of paradise, that he's been divinely chosen to lead his flock. But it's all about control for him. He can't stand the thought of anyone leaving his valley. Gabriel nodded grimly. When did you last see Catherine? How did she seem? About a week before I left. She was quiet like always. But Charlotte hesitated. She was drawing something over and over. A ranch house with mountains behind it. When Devlin saw the drawing, he tore it up, said it was dangerous to dwell on dreams. Gabriel's throat tightened with emotion. Our home, he thought. She was drawing our home. Will you come with me? he asked Charlotte. Help me find her? She shook her head firmly. I can't go back there. I still have nightmares about that place. But I'll point you to the trail that leads to the valley. After that, you're on your own. Fair enough, Gabriel said. And thank you for everything you've told me. Charlotte studied him across the fire. You really love her, don't you? More than life itself, Gabriel answered without hesitation. I never stopped looking, never stopped hoping. Then I hope you find her the real her, not what Devlin has made her into. Charlotte rose. I have a camp not far from here. I'll come back at dawn, show you the path you need to take. As promised, Charlotte returned at first light. She shared Gabriel's coffee and some jerky, then led him deeper into the mountains, following trails that would have been invisible to most eyes. By mid-afternoon, they reached a high ridge overlooking a vast expanse of wilderness. Charlotte pointed to a distinctive formation in the distance, 3 peaks rising above the forest, their silhouettes indeed resembling sleeping bears when viewed from this angle. Whispering Pines lies beyond those peaks, she said. Follow this ridge until it begins to descend. There's a stream at the bottom that will lead you to the pass into the valley. But remember, the pass is guarded. I'll find another way in, Gabriel assured her. Charlotte handed him a small cloth pouch. Dried yarrow. Brew it into a tea if you're forced to drink anything there. It won't completely counteract Devlin's concoction, but it might help you keep your wits about you. Gabriel tucked the pouch securely into his saddlebag. I can't thank you enough for your help. Just get your wife out of there, Charlotte said. And if you can, burn the place to the ground. With those parting words, she turned and disappeared back into the forest, leaving Gabriel to continue his journey alone. The next 2 days were grueling, the terrain becoming increasingly difficult as Gabriel approached the 3 peaks. He was forced to leave the horses behind in a sheltered meadow with access to water and grass, continuing on foot with only what he could carry in his pack. By the afternoon of the second day, he had reached a vantage point that allowed him to see beyond the 3 peaks. And there, nestled in a valley that seemed to glow with an almost unnatural verdant beauty, was Whispering Pines. From this distance, it looked idyllic, a collection of neat buildings surrounded by cultivated fields, all enclosed by steep cliffs on 3 sides. A thin waterfall cascaded down one cliff face, feeding a stream that wound through the center of the settlement. Smoke rose from chimneys, and Gabriel could just make out tiny figures moving about their daily tasks. Somewhere down there was Catherine. Gabriel pulled out her photograph, which he had been checking regularly throughout his journey. The change was dramatic now. Catherine's smile was radiant, her eyes bright with what looked like anticipation. The picture almost seemed alive in his hands, pulsing with energy. I'm coming, Kate, he whispered to the photograph. Just hold on a little longer. He spent the rest of the day scouting the perimeter of the valley, looking for a way in that would bypass the guarded pass Charlotte had warned him about. The cliffs were steep, but not impossible for a determined man with experience in mountains. As the sun began to set, Gabriel identified what seemed to be his best option, a section of the northern cliff that was less sheer than the rest, with enough handholds and vegetation to make a descent possible. It would put him close to Devlin's house, according to Charlotte's map, which was both an advantage and a risk. Gabriel made camp well back from the edge, out of sight of any sentries who might be posted along the valley rim. As darkness fell, he cleaned his revolver and checked his ammunition. He had 15 rounds for the revolver and 20 for the Winchester, which he had left with the horses. In their place, he carried a hunting knife and a length of rope. Sleep came fitfully, his dreams filled with images of Catherine calling to him from behind a glass wall he couldn't break through. He woke before dawn, feeling more exhausted than when he'd lain down. As the first light of morning began to illuminate the eastern sky, Gabriel prepared for his descent into Whispering Pines. He ate a cold breakfast, not risking a fire that might be spotted, and packed only the essentials: the rope, knife, revolver and ammunition, canteen, some jerky, Catherine's photograph, and the pouch of dried yarrow Charlotte had given him. Before beginning his climb down, Gabriel remembered Clara Wynn's instruction. He took a small bundle of sage he'd collected during his journey and set it alight, letting the fragrant smoke rise into the morning air. "Guide my path," he whispered. "Help me find her." The descent was treacherous. What had looked manageable from above proved more difficult in execution. Twice, Gabriel dislodged small cascades of stones that clattered down the cliff face, forcing him to freeze in place, heart-pounding as he waited to see if anyone below had heard. But luck, or perhaps Clara's spirits, was with him. He reached the bottom of the cliff without raising an alarm, finding himself in a small copse of trees at the edge of what appeared to be an orchard. Gabriel crouched among the trees, taking stock of his surroundings. The orchard stretched before him, rows of apple trees heavy with nearly ripe fruit. Beyond it, he could see the back of a large two-story building that must be Devlin's house. A woman was hanging laundry on a line, her back to Gabriel. He froze as the woman turned slightly, giving him a partial view of her profile. Even from this distance, he recognized the graceful curve of her neck, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Catherine. Every instinct screamed at him to run to her, to call out her name, to sweep her into his arms. But Charlotte's warnings echoed in his mind. Catherine might not remember him. Worse, she might alert others to his presence. Gabriel forced himself to remain hidden, watching as his wife methodically hung sheets and clothing on the line. She moved with the same grace he remembered, but there was something different about her, a careful precision to her movements, as if she were performing a task that required absolute concentration. When she finished with the laundry, Catherine gathered her empty basket and returned to the house through a back door. Gabriel waited, hoping she might emerge again, but after 15 minutes, there was no sign of her. He needed to get closer, to find a way to speak with her alone. Gabriel studied the house and its surroundings, noting the positions of windows and doors, the patterns of people moving about the settlement. The community was clearly well established, with routines and structures in place. People moved purposefully between buildings, carrying tools or goods. Children played in a fenced area near what appeared to be a schoolhouse. Everything seemed peaceful, orderly, disturbingly so, given what Charlotte had told him about the place. As morning progressed into afternoon, Gabriel observed the rhythm of the settlement. He saw men with rifles patrolling the perimeter, but they seemed more focused on the past than on the possibility of someone entering from the cliffs. He also got his first glimpse of the man who must be Elias Devlin, emerging from the large house to address a group of followers gathered in front. Even from a distance, Gabriel could see why people might be drawn to him. Devlin was tall and commanding, with silver hair and a neatly trimmed beard. He carried himself with the confidence of a man used to being obeyed, and the people around him listened with rapt attention to whatever he was saying. The sight of the man who had held Catherine captive for 3 years made Gabriel's blood boil. His hand instinctively moved to his revolver, but he forced himself to remain calm. Charging in now would only get him killed, and might put Catherine in danger as well. As the day wore on, Gabriel continued his surveillance, waiting for an opportunity. It came late in the afternoon, when Catherine emerged from the house alone, carrying a basket and heading toward a small garden plot at the side of the building. Gabriel worked his way carefully through the orchard, using the trees for cover, until he was as close as he dared get to the garden. Catherine was kneeling among the plants, harvesting what looked like herbs and vegetables, her back to him. Heart-pounding, Gabriel took a deep breath and whispered, "Catherine." She didn't react, continuing to work. "Kate." He tried again, a little louder. This time she paused, her hands stilling on a plant. Slowly, she turned her head, scanning the orchard behind her. "Who's there?" she called softly, her voice sending a shock through Gabriel's system. After 3 years, to hear her speak again. "It's Gabriel," he said, still keeping hidden. "Your husband." Catherine rose to her feet, basket in hand, her expression confused. I don't have a husband. Who are you? Show yourself. I can't, not yet. But I've come to take you home, Kate. To our ranch in Wyoming. A flicker of something recognition. Confusion crossed her face. Wyoming? I've never been to Wyoming. I've always lived here in the valley.
No, Gabriel insisted gently.
You've been missing for 3 years. There was an attack on your stagecoach. Somehow you ended up here. But this isn't your home. Catherine shook her head, but Gabriel could see doubt in her expression. The shepherd saved me. I was injured, lost my memory. He's been caring for me. The shepherd Elias Devlin is lying to you. He's keeping you here against your will, keeping all of you here through deception. Catherine took a step back, glancing nervously toward the house. You shouldn't say such things. The shepherd gives us peace, protection. The outside world is dangerous, full of violence and sin. Kate, please, Gabriel pleaded. Just listen to me. Your name is Catherine Prescott Quinn. We were married 5 years ago in Clearwater, Wyoming. We built a ranch together in the foothills of the Medicine Bow Mountains. You love riding at sunset, and you make the best apple pie in 3 counties, and you always sing when you're happy. Catherine's hand went to her throat, her eyes widening. How do you know these things? Because I'm your husband, and I've been searching for you since the day you disappeared. She shook her head again, but less certainly. No, this is some kind of trick. The shepherd warned us that outsiders would try to confuse us, to lure us away from the safety of the valley. I can prove it, Gabriel said, slowly reaching into his pocket to retrieve her photograph. I have something to show you. Don't come any closer, Catherine warned, backing away. I'll call for help. Please, just look at this. Gabriel held out the photograph, staying where he was. Just look, and then I'll go if that's what you want. Curiosity warred with fear on Catherine's face. Finally, she took a few cautious steps forward and reached for the photograph. The moment her fingers touched it, she gasped. The photograph seemed to glow briefly in the late afternoon light, and Catherine stared at it with shock written across her features. This is me, she whispered. But I don't remember. Look at how the expression changes. Gabriel encouraged her. That's how I knew you were alive, how I found my way to you. As they both watched, the Catherine in the photograph smiled the same radiant smile that the real Catherine had always reserved just for Gabriel. Gabriel, Catherine breathed, his name a question and a recognition all at once. Her eyes, when they lifted to search the shadows where he hid, held a spark of the woman he had married. I know your voice. I've been dreaming of it. Gabriel's heart soared. Yes, Kate. I'm here to take you home. She looked back at the photograph, then again toward the house that had been her prison for 3 years. I don't understand. Everything is so confused in my mind. It's the tea, Gabriel explained. There's something in it that clouds your thoughts, makes you forget your past. Catherine's hand went to her temple, as if trying to massage away pain. The clarity tea. The shepherd says it helps us see the truth more clearly. It does the opposite. It's how he controls everyone here. She looked at him with frightened eyes. If what you're saying is true, all these years. I know it's hard to believe, Gabriel said gently. But deep down, I think you know I'm telling the truth. Why else would you dream of my voice? Why would you draw her home? Catherine gasped. The drawings. The shepherd always took them away, said they were distractions. Because they were memories, Kate. Memories of our life together. A bell rang somewhere in the settlement, making Catherine jump. That's the call to evening gathering. Everyone will be heading to the meeting hall. I have to go, or they'll come looking for me. When can I see you again? When can we talk more? Catherine glanced anxiously between Gabriel and the path back to the house. After dark. There's a shed at the back of the garden where tools are kept. Meet me there at midnight. I'll be there, Gabriel promised. Be careful, Kate. She nodded, clutching the photograph tightly. I should keep this hidden. No, Gabriel said. I want you to have it, to help you remember. But if it's too dangerous, I'll keep it safe, she promised, tucking it into the pocket of her dress. I have to go now. Please be careful. The guards patrol regularly. With a last lingering look toward the trees where Gabriel hid, Catherine hurried back toward the house, her basket of herbs clutched tightly to her chest. Gabriel watched her go, his heart simultaneously lighter than it had been in 3 years and heavy with the knowledge of what she had endured. He had found her, but the hardest part still lay ahead, getting her safely out of Whispering Pines. The hours until midnight stretched endlessly before him. Gabriel retreated deeper into the orchard, finding a secure hiding place among the trees where he could rest and plan. He ate some of his jerky, drank sparingly from his canteen, and considered his options. Direct confrontation seemed impossible. Even if he managed to overpower or evade the guards, there was no guarantee Catherine would be willing or able to leave with him immediately. The effects of years of drugged tea wouldn't wear off overnight. Escape via the cliff he had descended seemed equally impractical. Catherine wasn't dressed or equipped for such a climb, and attempting it in darkness would be suicidal. That left the pass the main entrance to the valley, which Charlotte had warned was always guarded. If he could somehow create a distraction, or wait for a moment when the guards were changed or fewer in number. Gabriel's planning was interrupted by the sound of voices approaching through the orchard. He pressed himself against the trunk of an apple tree, barely breathing as 2 men walked past, rifles slung over their shoulders. Shepard says we need to double the watch tonight, one was saying. Says he senses a disturbance in the harmony of the valley. You think someone's trying to get in? The second man asked. Or someone's thinking of getting out. Either way, we'll catch them. No one leaves Whispering Pines without the shepherd's blessing. The men continued their patrol, their voices fading as they moved deeper into the orchard. Gabriel released the breath he'd been holding, a new sense of urgency flooding through him. Somehow, Devlin knew or suspected something was wrong. Perhaps he had noticed a change in Catherine after their brief encounter. Gabriel checked his revolver again, ensuring it was loaded and ready. He hoped he wouldn't need to use it. Gunfire would bring the entire settlement down on him, but he would not hesitate if Catherine's safety depended on it. As darkness fell completely, Gabriel made his way carefully toward the tool shed Catherine had mentioned. He positioned himself in the shadows behind it, waiting, every sense alert for the approach of guards or Catherine herself. Midnight came and went with no sign of her. Gabriel fought against rising panic. Had she been prevented from coming? Discovered the photograph? Changed her mind? Just as he was considering moving closer to the house to investigate, he heard the soft sound of footsteps approaching. Catherine appeared, a dark shawl wrapped around her shoulders, moving cautiously through the garden. Gabriel stepped slightly out of the shadows, just enough for her to see him. She hurried to his side, her face pale in the moonlight. I couldn't get away sooner, she whispered. The shepherd kept me late, asking questions. I think he suspects something. What kind of questions? About my mood, whether I'd seen or heard anything unusual today. He made me drink extra tea before bed. Catherine's voice trembled slightly. I pretended to swallow it, but spat it out when he turned away. Gabriel took her hands in his, feeling their slight tremble. Did you bring the photograph? She nodded, pulling it from beneath her shawl. I've been looking at it for hours. It's so strange when I focus on it. Memories start to surface, like bubbles in water. But they slip away again almost as quickly. What do you remember? Catherine closed her eyes, concentrating. A porch swing. Watching the sunset from a hilltop. Your voice reading to me in the evenings. Her eyes opened, glistening with tears. Are they real memories, Gabriel? Or am I just wanting so badly to believe you that I'm making them up? They're real, Kate, he assured her, fighting the urge to pull her into his arms. All of them. We have a swing on the east side of the porch, where the morning sun hits it just right. We used to ride to Prospect Hill to watch the sunset. And I read you Wuthering Heights last winter, a chapter each night before bed. A sob escaped her, quickly stifled by her hand. I want to remember everything. I want to go home with you. But I'm scared, Gabriel. What if this is all some kind of dream or delusion? It's not, he promised. And I'll prove it to you. We're going to get out of here, tonight if possible. Catherine shook her head frantically. We can't. The guards are everywhere. The shepherd has ordered extra patrols.
And
she hesitated. I'm not sure I'm strong enough to leave yet. The tea, whatever's in it, I can feel its hold on me even now. Part of me still believes what the shepherd has been telling us for years. Gabriel fought against despair. He hadn't anticipated this particular challenge, that even recognizing the truth, Catherine might not be physically or mentally capable of escaping right away. Then we'll wait, he said, making a swift decision. I'll stay hidden close to you. Each day, you'll drink less of the tea, find ways to avoid it. As your mind clears, we'll plan our escape properly. But where will you hide? How will you eat? The shepherd misses nothing in his valley. I've survived in harsher wilderness than this, Gabriel assured her. Just focus on clearing your mind of the tea's effects. And if you can, find out when the guards at the pass might be fewer in number or more easily distracted. Catherine nodded, then stiffened as a sound reached them, voices approaching from the direction of the main settlement. Guards, she whispered urgently. You have to go. When can we meet again? Tomorrow night, same time. I'll try to bring food. She pressed something into his hand, a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Herbs to help counteract the tea, if you're discovered and forced to drink it. I've been growing them secretly for months, not knowing why. Gabriel squeezed her hands one last time. Be careful, Kate. I love you. For the first time, she smiled, a genuine smile that transformed her face into the Catherine he remembered. I think I've always loved you, even when I couldn't remember your name. With that, she slipped away, hurrying back toward the house as the voices of the guards grew closer. Gabriel retreated into the darkness of the orchard, the bundle of herbs clutched tightly in his hand. He had found her. She was alive, and some part of her remembered him. For now, that was enough. The next 3 days fell into a pattern. Gabriel remained hidden in the wilderness surrounding the settlement, observing the routines of Whispering Pines by day and meeting Catherine in secret by night. Each night, she seemed more herself, more of the Catherine he had married. As she carefully avoided drinking the tea, her memories returned in fragments: their wedding day, the building of their ranch, their hopes for children, and a future together. She also brought crucial information about the settlement and its defenses. The pass was indeed heavily guarded, with at least 4 armed men at all times. But Catherine had discovered a potential opportunity. In 3 days' time, the community would be celebrating what Devlin called the Harvest Blessing, a festival where even the guards participated in certain rituals. There's a procession from the main settlement to the fields, Catherine explained during their 3rd meeting. Everyone attends, even the shepherd. The pass will have fewer guards than maybe only 1 or 2. That's our chance, Gabriel said. We'll slip away during the ceremony. But as their plans took shape, Gabriel noticed something troubling. Each night, Catherine seemed more exhausted, her face growing paler, her hands less steady. What's wrong? He asked on the 4th night, as she sank wearily onto a crate in the tool shed where they now met. Are you ill? The shepherd knows something is changing in me, she admitted. He's watching me constantly, insisting I drink the tea in his presence. I've been pretending to swallow it, but sometimes I can't avoid it.
And
she hesitated. What is it, Kate? Tell me. He started giving me a different brew at night. Something stronger. It makes me dizzy, confused. I think he's trying to reinforce his control over me before I can break free completely. Anger surged through Gabriel. We need to move faster. Tomorrow is the harvest blessing. Can you be ready? Catherine nodded, though uncertainty flickered in her eyes. I've gathered some supplies: food, water, a warmer shawl. But Gabriel, even if we make it past the guards, where will we go? The nearest town must be days away. I left horses in a meadow about half a day's climb from here, Gabriel told her. If we can reach them, we can be miles away before Devlin even realizes we're gone. Catherine's eyes brightened with hope.
Tomorrow, then.
During the procession to the fields, her expression grew serious. But Gabriel, you should know the shepherd won't let me go easily.
He's possessive of me.
Different than with the others. A cold fury settled in Gabriel's chest. Has he hurt you? Forced himself on you? No, Catherine said quickly. Nothing like that. But he believes I'm special somehow, that I have some kind of gift that strengthens his connection to whatever power he thinks guides him. He'll come after us. Let him try, Gabriel said grimly. I didn't cross half of Wyoming territory to lose you again. They finalized their plans. Catherine would slip away at the beginning of the procession, meeting Gabriel at the edge of the orchard. From there, they would make their way to the pass while the ceremony was underway. As dawn broke on the day of the harvest blessing, Gabriel felt a mixture of hope and dread. Everything depended on Catherine's ability to get away unnoticed and on the reduced number of guards at the pass. If either element failed, they might not get another chance. He watched from his hiding place as the settlement came alive with activity. People strung garlands between buildings, set up tables in the central square, prepared what looked like a feast. The excitement was palpable, even from a distance. By mid-morning, a makeshift altar had been erected in the square, adorned with early harvest produce, flowers, and candles. Elias Devlin emerged from his house, dressed in flowing white robes that made him look like some kind of ancient prophet. Gabriel's attention was drawn to the figure who followed him. Catherine, also dressed in white, her auburn hair loose around her shoulders. Even from a distance, Gabriel could see that something was wrong. Her movements were sluggish, her steps uncertain. Devlin kept her close beside him as he addressed the gathered community. Though Gabriel couldn't hear the words, he could see the rapturous attention on the faces of the followers. After what seemed like an endless sermon, Devlin raised his arms dramatically, and the people formed a procession behind him. Gabriel watched anxiously for any sign that Catherine was breaking away as planned. But she remained at Devlin's side as the procession wound its way out of the settlement, heading toward the fields beyond. Something had gone wrong. Either Catherine had been unable to get away, or worse, the stronger T. Devlin had been giving her had reclaimed her mind. Gabriel had to make a swift decision. Should he wait, hoping Catherine might still find a way to join him? Or should he attempt to reach her, even if it meant exposing himself? The procession had nearly disappeared from view when Gabriel saw a flash of white among the trees at the edge of the path. Catherine had managed to slip away after all. He hurried to meet her, finding her leaning against a tree, her breathing labored.
Kate.
Are you all right? She looked up at him, her eyes struggling to focus. Gabriel. I got away, but...
The tea.
He made me drink so much this morning. Gabriel supported her weight as she swayed on her feet. Can you walk? We need to move quickly while everyone's at the ceremony. I can try, she said, straightening with visible effort.
Just
don't let go of me. Never again, he promised, slipping an arm around her waist. They moved as quickly as Catherine's condition allowed, keeping to the cover of trees and buildings. The settlement was eerily quiet, with everyone at the harvest blessing. Their path to the pass seemed clear, until they rounded the last building and saw that the pass was not, in fact, lightly guarded as they had hoped. 4 armed men remained at their posts, seemingly immune to the festival's appeal. Gabriel pulled Catherine back into cover. This changes things. We can't fight our way past 4 armed guards. Catherine leaned heavily against him, her mind clearly struggling against the effects of the drugged tea. "There's another way," she murmured. "A path. The children use it sometimes, to play where they're not supposed to. It's narrow, dangerous, but it leads around the pass." "Where is it?" She pointed to a seemingly solid rock face about 50 yards from the main pass.
"There.
Behind those boulders. The entrance is hidden." Gabriel assessed their options. The alternative path was their best chance, but Catherine's condition worried him. She was growing more disoriented by the minute. "I'll carry you if I have to," he told her. "Just stay with me, Kate. Fight against whatever he gave you." They made their way carefully toward the hidden path, using every bit of available cover. They were within 20 yards of it when a shout rang out from the direction of the fields. "The blessed one is missing. Search everywhere." The alarm had been raised. Devlin had discovered Catherine's absence. "Run," Gabriel urged, supporting as much of Catherine's weight as he could while still moving quickly. They reached the boulders just as the guards at the pass received the alarm and began to spread out to search. Catherine, despite her drugged state, knew exactly where to find the hidden entrance, a narrow gap between two boulders that seemed impossibly tight, but opened into a passage beyond. They squeezed through just as voices approached their position. The path beyond was treacherous, a narrow ledge that wound around the side of the cliff face, barely wide enough for one person. Gabriel kept Catherine pressed against the rock wall, his body on the outside edge, shielding her from the drop. "Just a little farther," he encouraged her as they inched along the path. "You're doing wonderfully, Kate." Behind them, shouts echoed through the valley as the search intensified. Gabriel glanced back to see figures examining the main pass, but so far, no one had discovered their escape route. The path climbed steadily, taking them higher along the cliff face. Catherine was fighting valiantly against whatever drug Devlin had given her, but Gabriel could feel her weakening. "I can't," she gasped, her knees buckling. Gabriel caught her, lifting her into his arms despite the danger of the narrow path. "I've got you. We're almost there." He carried her the remainder of the way, his muscles burning with the effort, his mind focused solely on placing one foot securely in front of the other. One misstep would send them both plummeting to the rocks below. After what seemed like hours but was probably only 20 minutes, the path widened and began to descend toward the forest beyond the valley. They had made it past the cliffs that enclosed whispering pines. Gabriel set Catherine down gently in the shelter of a large pine tree. "We need to keep moving," he told her, though he desperately wanted to let her rest. He told her about the ranch, how he'd kept it ready for her return, about Hector and the town of Clearwater, about his search for her over the years. With each story, Catherine seemed to grow a little stronger, as if his words were an antidote to Devlin's poison. They had been traveling for about 2 hours when they heard the distant sound of horses and men calling to each other through the forest. "They're tracking us," Gabriel said grimly. "We need to move faster." "Wait," Catherine said, her voice stronger than it had been since their escape. "I know these mountains better than Devlin's men. There's a ravine ahead. If we can reach it, we can throw them off our trail." Gabriel looked at her with surprise and pride. Even drugged and weakened, his wife was still the resourceful, intelligent woman he had married. Following Catherine's directions, they found the ravine, a deep cut in the earth, with a fast-flowing stream at its bottom. They descended carefully, then waded downstream for several hundred yards before climbing out on the opposite bank. "They'll waste time searching both sides before figuring out we went downstream," Catherine explained. "It should buy us some time." They continued their journey, now moving at a better pace, as Catherine's mind continued to clear. The sounds of pursuit grew fainter behind them, suggesting their ploy with the ravine had worked. By late afternoon, they reached the meadow where Gabriel had left the horses. To his immense relief, both animals were still there, grazing peacefully. "We made it," Catherine breathed, a genuine smile lighting her face. "We actually made it." Gabriel helped her onto the mare, making sure she was secure before mounting Rusty himself. Not quite yet, he cautioned. We need to put as much distance between us and Whispering Pines as possible before nightfall. They rode hard for the remainder of the day, following game trails and stream beds to mask their trail. Catherine grew stronger with each mile, as if physical distance from the valley was breaking Devlin's hold on her mind. As the sun began to set, they found a sheltered hollow beside a small stream defensible, with good visibility of the surrounding area. Gabriel built a small, nearly smokeless fire, while Catherine unsaddled the horses. "How are you feeling?" he asked as they shared the food she had managed to bring from Whispering Pines.
"Better," she said.
"Clearer. It's like waking from a long, strange dream." She looked at him with tears in her eyes. 3 years, Gabriel. He stole 3 years of our life together. "We have the rest of our lives ahead of us," Gabriel reminded her gently. "And we're together now. That's what matters." Catherine reached for his hand. "When I was in the valley, even before you came, I used to have these dreams. I was standing on a porch, watching the sunset. I felt so peaceful, so at home. That was our ranch, wasn't it?" "Yes," Gabriel confirmed. "You used to say the sunset from our porch was better than any painting in any museum back east." Catherine smiled, a hint of her old self shining through. "I'd like to see it again. To go home." "We'll start for Clearwater tomorrow," Gabriel promised. "It's about a week's ride from here. Hector will be mighty pleased to see you." They talked late into the night, Catherine's memories returning in a flood as the drug continued to leave her system. She told Gabriel about her time at Whispering Pines, how she had been brought there unconscious after the stagecoach attack, how Devlin had convinced her she had no past before the valley, how she had always felt a sense of wrongness despite the tea. "There were others like me," she said. "People who didn't come willingly. The tea affected everyone differently. Some forgot everything about their previous lives. Others, like me, kept fragments of memory that the shepherd Devlin couldn't quite erase." "What about the woman who helped me find you, Charlotte Reed?" "Charlotte," Catherine said, recognition lighting her eyes. "Yes, I remember her. She used to ask questions that upset Devlin. Then one day she was gone, and he told us she had been called to a special mission outside the valley. She escaped," Gabriel told her. "She's the one who told me you were alive, who helped me find my way to Whispering Pines." Catherine's expression grew troubled. "There are still people there, Gabriel. People being held against their will, even if they don't know it anymore. We'll send help," Gabriel promised. "Once we reach Clearwater, we'll tell Hector everything. He can organize a proper posse, maybe even bring in territorial marshals." Catherine nodded, but she still looked concerned. "Devlin won't give up easily. He believes the valley is his divine right, that all of us belong to him. Especially me." Gabriel's arm tightened around her. "He'll never touch you again. I promise you that." They took turns keeping watch through the night, though Gabriel insisted Catherine take the longer rest to help her body clear the last of the drugs. By morning, she looked more like herself, her eyes clear, her movements more certain. They were preparing to leave their campsite when Catherine suddenly froze, her head tilted as if listening.
"Horses," she said.
Coming from the south. Gabriel immediately began breaking down their camp, erasing all signs of their presence. "Could be ordinary travelers," he said, though he didn't believe it for a moment. "It's them," Catherine said with certainty. "Devlin's men. I can feel it." They mounted quickly, Gabriel leading them north through dense forest that would help hide their trail. But the sounds of pursuit grew steadily closer throughout the morning. "They're gaining on us," Catherine said grimly as they paused to rest the horses at midday. Devlin must have sent his best trackers. Gabriel studied their surroundings, weighing options. "There's a canyon about 5 miles east of here. Narrows down to where only one horse can pass at a time. If we could get there ahead of them, we might be able to hold them off." Catherine nodded. "Let's do it." They rode hard for the canyon, pushing their already tired horses to their limits. As they approached the narrow passage Gabriel had remembered, they heard their pursuers closing the gap behind them. "Go through," Gabriel instructed Catherine. "I'll hold them here."
No.
Catherine protested. "We stay together." "Kate, please. I can slow them down, give you time to get away." She fixed him with a determined stare he remembered well from their life together. "I just found you again, Gabriel Quinn. I am not leaving you behind." Before he could argue further, the first of their pursuers appeared at the mouth of the canyon, 4 riders, rifles ready. At their center rode Elias Devlin himself, his white robes replaced by practical riding clothes, his face a mask of cold fury. "Catherine," he called, his voice echoing off the canyon walls. "Come back to where you belong. This man has poisoned your mind with lies." Catherine straightened in her saddle, facing the man who had stolen 3 years of her life. "The only poison here is your tea, Elias. And I'm free of it now." Devlin's expression hardened. "You're confused, my dear. This man has no claim on you. Your place is in the valley, by my side." Gabriel moved his horse slightly forward, placing himself between Catherine and Devlin. "She's my wife, and she's made her choice. Turn back now, and you might live to see another sunrise." Devlin laughed, a sound devoid of humor. 4 armed men against 1. And you threaten me? Your arrogance is impressive if misguided. "This doesn't have to end in bloodshed," Gabriel said, though his hand hovered near his revolver. "Just let us go." "I'm afraid I can't do that," Devlin replied. "Catherine is essential to my work in the valley. She has a gift, a connection to the other side that strengthens my own abilities. Surely you've noticed it? The way the photograph changed? That was her, reaching across the veil." Gabriel felt a chill at the accuracy of Devlin's assessment. So the changes in Catherine's photograph hadn't been his imagination, or some trick of the light. Somehow, Catherine had actually made it happen. "It doesn't matter what gifts she has," Gabriel said firmly. "She's a free woman, not your property." Devlin sighed, as if disappointed by Gabriel's failure to understand. "Men like you see only what's directly in front of you. I see the greater purpose, the divine plan. Catherine is part of that plan." "I make my own choices now," Catherine called out. "And I choose Gabriel. I choose freedom." Something dangerous flashed in Devlin's eyes. "Then you leave me no alternative." He nodded to the men beside him. "Take her alive. Kill him." The men raised their rifles, but before they could fire, a shot rang out from somewhere above the canyon. One of Devlin's men cried out, clutching his shoulder as he tumbled from his horse. More shots followed in quick succession, forcing Devlin and his remaining men to seek cover behind rocks at the canyon entrance. Gabriel and Catherine both turned to see where their unexpected help had come from. Standing on the canyon rim above them was Charlotte Reed, rifle in hand, flanked by Marshal Hector Daniels and 4 deputies. "Might want to rethink your odds, Devlin," Hector called down.
Territorial marshals.
"You're surrounded." Gabriel had never been so glad to see his old friend. "Hector, how did you find us?" "Ran into Charlotte and Rimrock," Hector explained, keeping his rifle trained on Devlin and his men. "She was mighty worried about you charging into Whispering Pines alone. We gathered a posse and followed your trail." Devlin, realizing he was outmaneuvered, raised his hands slowly. "This is a misunderstanding, Marshal. The woman came to my community of her own free will. Ask her yourself." "Is that right, madam?" Hector called to Catherine. "No," Catherine replied clearly. "I was taken there unconscious after a stagecoach robbery 3 years ago. Drugged and held prisoner along with others. The shepherd Elias Devlin has been keeping people against their will, controlling them with drugged tea." Hector's expression hardened. "That's so? Well, Mr. Devlin, seems we've got some serious matters to discuss." He motioned to his deputies to move down into the canyon and take Devlin and his men into custody. As the marshals led the prisoners away, Gabriel finally allowed himself to believe it was truly over. Catherine was safe. Devlin was captured. The nightmare that had begun 3 years ago had finally ended. "I can't believe you came after us," Gabriel said to Charlotte as she joined them at the bottom of the canyon. "Couldn't let you face him alone," she replied with a small smile. "I owed it to all those still trapped in the valley." "And they'll be free now," Catherine assured her. "All of them. Because of what you did escaping, finding Gabriel, coming back with help." Charlotte nodded, a weight seeming to lift from her shoulders. "What will you do now?" Gabriel looked at Catherine, his heart full. "Go home. Start living again." The journey back to Clearwater took just over a week, with stops along the way to rest and recover. A larger force of territorial marshals had been dispatched to Whispering Pines to free the remaining residents and gather evidence against Devlin. As they crested the final hill that overlooked their ranch, Gabriel felt a surge of emotion. The house stood just as he had left it, waiting for Catherine's return. Catherine gasped softly beside him. "It's exactly as I remembered it. Exactly as I drew it, all those times in the valley." They rode down to the house together, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the yard. Gabriel helped Catherine dismount, then swept her into his arms to carry her across the threshold of their home. Inside, everything was clean and ready. Gabriel had maintained the house meticulously during her absence, always hoping for her return. Catherine walked slowly through the rooms, touching furniture, looking at the few photographs and mementos they had collected during their marriage. "It's like stepping back in time," she murmured. "Like the last 3 years never happened." "They happened," Gabriel said gently, coming to stand behind her. "But they're over now. We can start fresh, Kate. Build the life we always planned." She turned to him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I love you, Gabriel Quinn. I think I loved you even when I couldn't remember your name." "And I never stopped loving you," he replied, drawing her into his arms. "Not for a single moment." That evening, they sat together on the porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant golds and reds. Catherine's head rested on Gabriel's shoulder, her hand entwined with his. "There's something I don't understand," she said after a comfortable silence. "How did you know I was alive? What made you keep searching when everyone else had given up?" Gabriel reached into his pocket and withdrew the photograph, the one that had led him to her.
This.
"I was sitting right here, looking at your picture, missing you so badly it felt like physical pain. And then you smiled at me." Catherine took the photograph, studying it. "Devlin was right about one thing. I do have some kind of connection to the other side. My mother had it too. She always knew things before they happened, could sense when loved ones were in danger. Do you think that's how you reached out to me?" "Through this photograph. I think love is the strongest force in the universe," Catherine said simply. "Stronger than Devlin's tea, stronger than distance, stronger even than time. Our love found a way to bridge the gap between us." Gabriel kissed her softly, marveling at the miracle of having her back in his arms. "I would have searched forever," he whispered against her lips. "You won't have to," she promised. "I'm home now. For good." 5 years later, Gabriel Quinn stood on the porch of the ranch house, watching his wife and their twin daughters gathering wildflowers in the meadow. The girls, just past their 4th birthday, had Catherine's auburn hair and Gabriel's blue eyes, perfect combinations of their parents. After Catherine's return, they had expanded the ranch, built a larger barn, added more rooms to the house. Prosperity had come easily, as if the land itself was celebrating Catherine's homecoming. Elias Devlin had been sentenced to life in prison for kidnapping, false imprisonment, and other crimes. The residents of Whispering Pines had been freed, many reunited with families who had thought them long dead. Some, who had nowhere else to go, had settled in Clearwater, forming a tight-knit community of survivors. Catherine had recovered fully from her ordeal, though occasionally she still had nightmares about the valley. On those nights, Gabriel would hold her close, reminding her that she was home, that she was safe, that they were together. The twins, Emma and Elizabeth, had been born almost exactly 9 months after Catherine's return, a joyous confirmation that life would continue, that happiness was possible even after darkness. Gabriel watched as Catherine looked up from the flowers, catching his gaze across the meadow. She smiled, that special smile that had always been just for him, the same smile that had somehow found its way into a photograph when all hope seemed lost. She gathered the girls and headed back toward the house, their daughters skipping ahead with their bouquets of wildflowers.
Papa.
Emma called. "Look what we found. Aren't they pretty?" Gabriel knelt to admire the colorful assortment. "Beautiful, just like you both." Elizabeth, always the more perceptive of the twins, studied his face. "Were you remembering again, Papa? About when you found Mama?" Gabriel smiled, still amazed at how intuitive his daughters could be, a gift inherited from their mother. "Yes, sweetheart. I was remembering." "Tell us the story again," Emma pleaded. About the picture, that smile. Catherine joined them on the porch, slipping her arm around Gabriel's waist. "Your papa is the most stubborn, determined man in all of Wyoming territory," she told the girls. "When everyone else gave up, he kept believing." "Because I knew what we had couldn't be lost," Gabriel said, drawing her closer. "Some bonds can't be broken, not by distance, not by time, not even by those who would try to keep us apart." The twins settled on the porch steps, eager for the familiar story, while Catherine leaned her head against Gabriel's shoulder. "I still have the photograph," he murmured to her. "I know," she replied. "In the box by our bed." "It doesn't change anymore," he noted. Catherine smiled, watching their daughters arranging their wildflowers. "It doesn't need to. It served its purpose. It brought us back together." Gabriel turned to face her, framing her beloved face with his hands. "I thank God every day that it did. That I didn't give up, that I kept looking at your picture until you smiled at me. And I thank God for giving me the strength to reach out to you," Catherine whispered. "To find my way home." As the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in the brilliant colors that Catherine had always loved, Gabriel Quinn stood surrounded by his family, the wife he had searched for across half a territory, and the daughters who were the living proof of their enduring love. The photograph that had guided him to Catherine sat in its box by their bed, a reminder of the inexplicable bond that had refused to be severed by separation or suffering. A bond that had somehow allowed Catherine to reach across an impossible divide and tell Gabriel, in the only way she could, that she was waiting for him to find her. In that moment, with his family gathered around him and the future stretching bright before them, Gabriel Quinn knew with absolute certainty that he was the most fortunate man alive. Whatever hardships they had faced, whatever darkness had touched their lives, the light of their love had proven stronger. And that was all that mattered.